The purpose of my talk really is twofold. First, to explain how it's possible to achieve a life of sobriety for even the most hardened of drinkers, despite decades of alcoholism. And second, to encourage those of you who might be suffering as a loved one goes through the misery of alcohol addiction. There are organisations out there that assist with people in both camps. So alcoholics and family members and friends of alcoholics who really are the people I feel who feel powerless and defeated, looking on as those they love drink themselves to a standstill. But it's not going to be a pity party. I mean, my story is pretty ugly, but there's a happy ending where, so far anyway, there isn't an ending, but so far so good. And hopefully it'll act as an inspiration to anyone who faces alcoholism, either directly, that's to say you yourself have a drink problem, or indirectly, you have a dear one who, in your life, who suffers from this abject addiction. So where shall I begin? Well, I'm a 56-year-old chap, originally from Birmingham, as the accent no doubt gives away, but I've lived in Aberdeenshire for almost a decade now. I live in a town called Stonehaven. I haven't managed to pick up any of the Doric quite yet. I'm a twice divorced father of 5, so still very much in gainful employment and likely to be well into my 80s unless I win the lottery. It's expensive business being divorced and fathering so many kids. But to take it from the beginning, when I was 15 years old, my self-confidence was pretty low. I didn't have much of a identity other than being the English kid in a Scottish school, because I lived in Stonehaven back in the 80s for 4 years. And I was always on the periphery of a social circle. I was never really involved. I just looked in from the outside. I wasn't bullied at school, and I had a settled home life, but I was your stereotypical adolescent, I suppose, trying to make sense of my place in the world without ever really coming to a satisfactory conclusion. And there was one summer's night, there was a fairground in the town, and I went along. And I was, as I say, one of the hangers-on to a group of lads who were the big shots at school. But that night I was offered my first drink at 15. And it was a bottle of Holston Pills. I remember it as clearly as if it were yesterday. And to cut a long story short, that night really became the catalyst for almost 2 decades of heavy drinking, which shaped my life and not for the better. Becoming a drinker at 15, it soon became my identity. It was my passport to keeping pace with the in crowd. Being under the influence of alcohol relaxed me. It broke down my inhibitions and had me acting the goat. It sort of gave me confidence, Dutch courage, and had me feeling like a big hero when I was out with friends. When I was sober, I wasn't really part of the scene, but if I got drunk, mates would turn to me as the life and soul of the party, and sometimes the pantomime villain, other times the comedian, but never the wallflower anymore. And that's why I did it. I liked the way alcohol took away my shyness and my low self-esteem, and sort of put bravado and bravery into me, and it made me one of the lads. It promoted me from sort of hanger-on to Billy Big Time, and I liked it. And that was all very well at 15, 16 and 17 at the weekends, but it became clear as an 18-year-old university student, because I'd moved back to Birmingham by then, that my dependency on alcohol, it really wasn't limited to the weekends. In fact, it wasn't limited at all. While others moved on and kept a lid on their drinking, my every waking moment was now devoted to boozing or recovering from the effects of drink. And the promising golfing career I had at 15 when I was a single figure handicapper, well, that was long since forgotten, and I just blundered my way through university until I got my first office job. Uh, but that didn't improve things because now I had money in my pocket, and the financing of my addiction wasn't a problem. So all bets were off, and it was all systems go. Uh, I won't roll out all the war stories, but let's just say I spent my entire 20s in a haze of alcoholism. I missed family events, I ruined holidays, I lost friends, I got ill. Somehow managed to keep my job despite being on the brink of the sack so many times. Um, and I just made so many grubby and regrettable choices while under the influence of alcohol. And I'd find myself ejected from football matches, from concerts. I'd miss buses home. I'd end up sleeping in hedgerows. I got arrested for being drunk and disorderly. I'd missed job interviews. The list goes on, and I've very much sanitized what I've just shared with you. Um, I just couldn't seem to function without the fuel of alcohol. I was entirely dependent on the feeling that it gave me. It just took the edge off my anxious state of mind and meant I didn't need to fear the world with a sober head. It's mind altering alcohol, and I was just hopelessly addicted. Um, it cost me my first marriage. My first wife wasn't happy with my drinking and said, "Well, look, it's me or the drink." So I left. Ludicrous though that sounds, that's what I did. It cost me any hope of a promising vocation. It cost me thousands of pounds, several friendships, and ultimately my sanity. Um, but then in 2004, after 19 years of this junk, um, everything changed. I've been visiting a customer in the course of the job I was somehow holding down. I was a timber salesman at the time for a company called BSW Timber, big UK timber producer. And this customer said he didn't want to talk business that day. We normally met quarterly to talk about prices for the next quarter. And he said, I'm not going to talk about that today. Phil Hall was his name. He just said, you look absolutely awful. And he demanded I tell him what was going on in my life. And that kind of took me unawares. I didn't know him that well, but I was so broken by that point. I just found myself laying my story bare before him. Told him, look, I'm an alcoholic and it's killing me. I told him I'd tried to stop drinking so many times, but each time it hadn't lasted. And when I went back to drinking, I'd find a new rock bottom, even lower than the rock bottom I'd reached the last time. It was just a never-ending circle, and I was just in complete tatters and despair. And he said to me, have you ever asked God to help you? And I just told him to get lost. I just said, I don't believe in any of that God stuff, Phil, and I'm not going to start now. And if there was a God, he'd surely never allow me to get into this state. Just look at me. That's how I looked at it. And he empathized, he listened, and he just, but he wouldn't leave it. He said, look, any relationship has to be a two-way relationship, and explained that it didn't really matter how much God wanted to help me. If I ignored him or stuck two fingers up to him, he was powerless to assist. And he just said that from where he was sitting, I really had nothing to lose. So I kind of caved in and said, okay, I'll try church then. And without Bible bashing yet, all I can say is God did enter in, and I've not taken a drink in 21 years now. March the 9th, 2004 was my last drink, and I've not touched a single drop ever since. There's been plenty of times of temptation, particularly in the first 2, 3 years, and there's been a whole host of lows in my life, which would otherwise have turned me back to drink. But my faith in God's power to sustain me, rather than my own willpower, has seen me through. I attended AA meetings, that's Alcoholics Anonymous, and they're very heavy on the importance of giving your addiction over to a higher power as you know him to be. And so I did, and here I am to tell the tale. I'd, I'd meet with an alcohol misuse counsellor, a guy called Peter, and he instilled in me a mantra which keeps me right even to this day. You know, people and places, he would say. If you're serious about your sobriety, if you genuinely want to stop drinking, you just have to put it at the very centre of your life. You must change your habits, root and branch, and that has to include people and places. If you go to the same places as you did and spend time with the same people as you did, um, those people who've effectively become your enablers, your facilitators and apologists for your drinking, then nothing is going to change. You have to rip up previous patterns of behavior and introduce new routines, new practices and people. It's a must. And that does mean that you'll lose people who previously were close to you, including family members. But if they're enabling your drinking, you've got to walk away. Um, Alcoholism, it's just a desperately sad affliction. It just saps you of everything, and worse, it saps your family of everything too, because they can only look on while you sabotage your life. They're powerless while I watch the person they love sort of descend into chaos, and just wouldn't wish alcoholism on anybody. And if you know someone with this nightmare addiction, you'll know precisely what I mean. It's just horrible being addicted to alcohol, a miserable existence. You can find an excuse in all circumstances to reach for a drink. You celebrate with it, you drown your sorrows in it, you use it to calm your nerves in social situations. It becomes the go-to answer in all scenarios, and just becomes an established way of life that it's very difficult to back out of. Alcoholics will always find a reason to drink. So to be sober is a blessing which I'm thankful for every day. It's been 21 years now, but I never take it for granted or get complacent. Otherwise, I could very easily be led back into that life. I'm always just one arm's length away from another drink. It's as easy as picking up this cup of coffee, so I have to be careful. But I value my sobriety hugely, and it's such a blessing. Take this afternoon, I was at my grandson's baptism down here in Birmingham today, and if I'd have kept drinking, there's no way that would ever have happened. Or if I was still around to attend, I'd have made a spectacle of myself and spoiled it for everybody. So it's a blessing being sober, but to my mind, that there's one thing equally as tragic as being an alcoholic, and that's having the misfortune to have a very dear family member or friend be addicted, and yet feel absolutely powerless to intervene or to help or to guide them away from the chaos that this lifestyle brings. Um, it's bad enough being addicted to alcohol, but worse still if you're looking on at the tragic sight of someone dear to you blighting their lives and yours with this obsession to keep tipping liquid down their throat, and feel just powerless about it. And that was the second point I wanted to make tonight as I come towards the end. That there is help for you too if you've got family members or friends with this plight. There are organisations to help you, and the best of them, in my opinion, is Al-Anon. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about them before I finish. Al-Anon, they're an organisation that enables its members to provide one another with mutual support. So sharing experiences at meetings and just offering a safe place to talk about their concerns and feelings. And people can attend without talking if they want. Just listening to other folks' stories and backgrounds can be enough to provide empathy, understanding, and the support that you need. Listening to experience of others can help people find the confidence they need to deal with the effects of someone else's drinking, and it reminds folk that they're not alone and it's possible to rediscover happiness, whether the alcoholic is still drinking or not. And whatever your relationship with the drinker, even if they have stopped drinking, left the family, or even died, you're welcome to attend Al-Anon. They're there very much to support. And anything discussed within the meetings are confidential, including your presence at the meeting. And there's around 700 groups throughout the UK and Ireland, either in person or online, as this is. So very accessible. And I can't endorse it enough for family and friends of alcoholics. And if you wanted to find out more about them, they're called Al-Anon. So if you put that in your search engine, AL-ANON, and visit their website. Very informative and very helpful. And that's about all from me. The first time I think I've made it to the end of a talk without mentioning Aston Villa, but if I've a few minutes left, I'm more than happy to drone on about Villa if you would like. Otherwise, if you've got any questions, feel free to to ask away. But if there's no questions, I'm just happy to have been here tonight, and thank you again, for having me.
Right, thanks very much, Alex. Here, Bill's got a question.
I got to know Alex through a lender and on a business point of view. Alex, when we spoke before, you mentioned your two sons and golfing and the importance of that.
Yeah.
What do you tell us about that?
Yeah, I've got 5 children. My youngest two, Freddie and Ernie, they're 17 and 12. And like me, they love their golf. And when I was a drinker, if I did play golf with them, I'd have hurried off the course as early as possible. I might have played 9 holes. It'd have all been a bit of a rush. I wouldn't really have been there in my mind. I'd have just ticked the box and cleared off to the pub. That'd have been a bit of an inconvenience to me. When you're sober and you're not ruled by drink anymore, addicted to alcohol anymore, you just cherish things like that. Playing golf with your sons, or it might be going walking with your family, or anything. Any time spent away from that drink is time that you're in the moment, you enjoy. And I'll walk along the fairways playing golf with the boys, and often I'll hang back and let them walk ahead, and I'll just soak it up. I'll just look up ahead at them and think, wow, what a blessing. Here we are playing golf together, and it's wonderful. You just you don't take these things for granted when you're sober. You're just so thankful for them. So yeah, recommend sobriety.
Any other questions, anybody? No. Well, can I just thank you, Alex, for a really moving, I think, talk about your life. And can I just say to you, my son is married to a girl from Birmingham, and at their wedding, that his father-in-law said the best thing that he knew about him being Scottish was he wasn't going to be an Aston Villa supporter because they're Birmingham City supporters. So that we actually said that at his wedding. So
it's funny you should say that. I don't want to eat up too much more of your time, but yeah, we are devout Aston Villa supporters. Yep. My side of the family.
Yeah.
And Birmingham City being our arch rivals, it's a bit of a Celtic Rangers thing.
Yes.
Well, today, here I am in Birmingham for the baptism of my grandson, and the father of my grandson, partner of my daughter, staunch Birmingham City supporter, and his family were there this afternoon, all Birmingham City season ticket holders. And I said, look, I think we're going to have a word in the car park about all of this. We need to sort this out, like men. I'm not having my grandson growing up as a Birmingham City supporter. It's just not going to happen. And Harry, my daughter's partner, you just said, "Suck it up, Grandad. He's my son, and he's going to be a Blue Nose, and that's the end of it." So
yeah.
I am trying to come to terms with that topic right now.
I know. It's like my son's, my grandson, my other son said, "You do realise he's going to have a Birmingham accent?" And my son said, "No, he won't. I'm going to be the only person that's going to speak to him. So he's going to have a Scottish accent."
I should have apologised for my accent ahead of time.
No,
I
not
know
at
the
all.
Birmingham one is a monotone drone, so apologies.
No, not at all. We hear it all the time, but no, I really do thank you for your honesty and your just the way that you have shared your life with us there. On a Sunday afternoon in our church, we've got a group called Struggling with Sobriety at 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, and I am absolutely shocked that on a Sunday afternoon there are more than 50 people there every Sunday, all young people.
Yeah.
So I know it is a real scourging on life, really, for people. And if people are able to do what you've done and walk away and be strong enough when you go to things and people are saying, "Why are you not having a drink?" and you're not having a drink here and things like that. It's really wonderful that you've managed to do that, and I really applaud the fact that you're going to come and share your story with other people because it's not easy. So
it's very encouraging to hear there's as many as 50 youngsters on a Sunday afternoon who take this issue so seriously that they'll pitch up at your church and say, "Okay, I need some help here." That's great to hear. That is. Wish them well.
So but I know it is we've got 2 or 3 AA groups in the church that meet. So there are people that are really trying hard.
And don't forget Al-Anon as well, for families and friends of it's a rough gig when people you love are just falling apart beneath you through alcohol. And you think, wow, Al-Anon are really helpful to get alongside and support one another.
Thanks very much for that.
My father, long dead, was very anti-drink. We hadn't had any drink in the house at all. His parents or his father was an alcoholic and a violent alcoholic. But when my children were young, and Jim's very much into football and golf, and it was Rangers, they're not the Masters, but it happened to be, Rangers, his local team. And at that point, the strip was McEwen's lager in the back, and my father was so angry. He wrote to the Scottish government and everything else to say, "Why are sort of sport and with children who want these little strips every time the team changes its promotion, its merchandise, and they're advertising alcohol? That's not really what the way we're wanting to get our young people." And it's so difficult with the alcohol pops and things that people start at a really young age.
And now it's on to they're emblazoned with sort of a gambling website. So that's the next.
That's awful as well, isn't it? It's not something's not right about these things, and we'll let it go.
The worst example was the aforementioned Birmingham City. There was a season back in the 80s where they were sponsored by Triton Showers. Do you know the showers in your bath? Triton Showers. And their sales in Birmingham, the north side of Birmingham, plunged because Villa supporters weren't going to buy Triton Showers anymore.
I know, that's what you find, isn't it? It's a real thing. I know. But and thanks and you're welcome to join us any time. If you want to come back any time.
Thank you.
We do have great speakers.
I'd like to.
So
thank you. I'd love to listen another time if I'm invited back. I'll be here.
Right. Well, what we'll do is I'll add you to the list, and we send out who the speaker is. So if you're interested, you're welcome to come along. if you're not interested, you just kind of delete it and say that's her sending that information again. I'm not interested in that, but you would be welcome any time to come
That's
along.
good of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.